Coming up on Techzilla, Veronica's hands-on with Dell 7-inch Streak. Recall, SandyBridge is broken. Here's your new Intel PC hose. Don't panic. Making your own 3D video, part 1. The cameras are so cheap. Where's my Twitter history? More eSATA to USB fail and kickstarting your product idea to life. Put down that pint of ice cream and go see if you can do 20 push-ups, because Techzilla starts now. This episode of Techzilla is made possible by Dead Space 2 in stores now, GoDaddy, and Audible.com. Get a free audiobook at audiblepodcast.com/Techzilla. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Welcome to Techzilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech and how to make the most out of the gear you've already got.
Whether you're a beginner, tech support for your friends and family, if you've got a question about tech or the best ice cream in San Francisco, we've got an answer for you.
Matter of fact, we've got a tour we'll take you on, at the end of which our hearts will all simultaneously explode.
3 twins and Humphrey Slocum and Byright.
Humphrey Slocum, a little pretentious.
Secret breakfast. That's all I have to say. Secret breakfast.
I'm going to add Mr. and Mrs. Miscellaneous because, dog patch pride. Hey, and if we don't, we'll track down someone who does. And you know what? Everybody loves ice cream. We'll go to all the ice cream places.
Everyone does love ice cream. It's true.
How about Egypt?
Yeah, some scary stuff.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how many people I had spoken to in the past who were like, yeah, Lieberman wants a kill switch for the internet, no big deal, are now going, Lieberman wants a kill switch for the internet!
I was one of those people. I wasn't one of those freak out people. I was just one of those people like, hey, you should be paying attention if you've noticed what's going down in Egypt. People are trying to do this or do something like this in the U.S. Or at least have the opportunity to be able to do that. I don't know if I entirely believe that they don't already technically have that ability.
Yeah, it's actually not that hard to stop
hat,
the internet.
I'm just saying. Putting the tinfoil hat on.
Putting the tinfoil hat on.
Tom Merritt would be proud.
Yes, he would be. Hey, the product we did not talk about that I was very excited about from Macworld last week. I'm a huge fan of lens pens. I use them all the time for binoculars and camera lenses and rifle scopes and everything else on the planet. Sadly, they are not coming out with the Sidekick just yet, but it's basically a giant lens pen for your phone and or your iPad and or your Android tablet and or your HD TV, and look at the way it sucks up grease.
I want to test that because my face.
Somebody get me a greasy iPhone.
I have a pretty greasy iPhone.
There we go.
I'm sorry, I wear makeup and the stuff gets on the phone sometimes.
Do we have can we see the grease on the monitor?
This is really embarrassing. All right, just
not
wipe
as
it
embarrassing
off.
as the time I pulled my earbuds out.
Wipe it
oh,
off.
Look at that! Look at that!
Oh. Can I?
Isn't that just amazing?
That is beautiful.
It's
almost here. Let me try.
What really makes me incredibly sad, actually, we should put some more carbon on it.
More carbon?
Yeah, it's basically,
so you clean it off?
Pretty much.
Word.
Yeah, it takes me a second to figure out how to slide it back in there. Unfortunately, the guys at LensPen were like, we don't have a sales date for that because they're trying to get some big company to buy all of their stock. But please, LensPen, just make it happen.
Is there a good technique to this? Can I do like?
I usually just sort of, you can do the swirly thing.
Seems to be
for
working
lenses
better for
with
me.
the little one, the regular lens pen, I usually do the swirly thing.
Oh, what a shiny! That is beautiful. Yeah, it's tiny circles. Wax on, wax off. It works. Highly
Tiny circles. I have a question for everybody out there who uses Gmail. Have you been running into situations where people who you know are logged into Gmail are not showing up in Gmail chat?
Oh, I don't use Gmail chat.
See, because I use it a lot with friends. I also use it a lot with Mom, but I can't anymore because Gmail, Mom can't see me when I'm online, and I can't see Mom in Gmail chat when I'm online, which means Gmail's voice and video chat client won't work. Also, by the way, in case you're wondering how you can have a really thorough fail afternoon, Skype no longer works on any version of OS 10 before 10.5, so Mom's 10.4 box is off the list, and Logitech's really cool VidHD, which if you've got a megabit up will do 1280 by 720, essentially 720p HD video calls if you both have a megabit up, megabit down.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool way to do a video conference.
I know
Also,
that Skype updated to they took their Mac beta out of beta.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the reason they're figuring out that it wasn't working so well on systems older than
10.5 refuses to even
10.5.
install anything
Really?
before 10.5.
Wow.
10.4, whatever. iChat on my work machine, by the way, wrong set of contents because it's logged into Gmail while, AIM is what my mom's system was logged on. So I ended up borrowing my wife's machine so Seamus could talk to Grandma and Poppy. It was just amazing to see how you can have a nice, 2-year-old OS 10 box, nice like 27-inch machine, complete fail because apparently I need to go update the operating system on my mom.
Well, iChat though? I mean, you tried iChat, right?
I ended up having to do iChat, but I couldn't do iChat with my Windows machine, which had the big, shiny 1280. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like the
Okay.
big, powerful machine that was already set up and had lighting and stuff, couldn't do it. Had to borrow my wife's old machine. So we could
Well,
actually
when you get
log in.
when you get the next version of the iPad, which I'm sure you will, it'll have a camera and all that lovely FaceTime built right in, so you guys can do some cross-platform chatting.
Great. So now I'll buy another $1,400 worth of iPads and send one to my mom.
Actually, it won't be cross-platform because iOS doesn't work with iChat, does it?
In theory,
Yet.
you can do iChat to. No, I don't want to even get
No,
into it.
not yet. But we digress. The big news this week isn't Apple's change on warranty service if the liquid contact indicator at the bottom of the headphone port is on. If there's no external signs of damage from corrosion, then the iPod may still be eligible for warranty service.
Woohoo.
Yes, very good news. Note the big news is Intel's latest recall. Patrick?
It was a rough Monday for Intel, or was it? Intel's found a flaw in the new SandyBridge chipsets on the 6 Series motherboards. Don't hurl your new machine out the window just yet, though. It's a problem with the 3 gigabit per second SATA ports, and it shouldn't be impacting anybody yet, in theory. Joining us today from PCPer.com, Mr. Ryan Shrout. How's it going, man?
It's doing all right. I guess I'm doing better than Intel is, as you are saying here. So yeah, not too bad.
It's pretty crazy. It's a hardware fail in the chips used for the 3 gigabit SATA connections and not the 6 gigabit SATA ports.
Yeah, so it's kind of ironic. I think when the story first broke, everybody assumed it was going to be the new SATA 6.0 gigabit per second ports that they just kind of slapped on at the end of development. It turns out those work fine, and it's the older standard 3.0 gigabit per second, the ones that have been around for a couple of years, that actually have the silicon bug in them.
So is this actually on the SandyBridge chips, the Intel chipset, or is it something else that's soldered down there on the motherboard?
It's actually on the 6 Series chipset directly. It's not on the SandyBridge processor, which Intel was very adamant to tell everybody during the conference call. But it really doesn't matter a whole lot because you can't sell the processor without a chipset to go along with it, whether or not it's for a
Right.
desktop or a mobile platform or anything like that. So,
Are desktops and notebooks being affected, or is it primarily just desktops?
they didn't specify, and when I asked several people at Intel, they only said that they pointed me to their news release on their website that very specifically does say all 6 Series chipsets. So my indication is that it is both desktop and mobile that's being affected by this.
So it sounds like Intel is going to actually foot the bill on this. Analysts are like $300 million in lost sales and probably $750 million, $700 million in repairs. I mean, is Intel going to talk to end users, or should people contact their manufacturer to get a replacement?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is you're going to talk to your motherboard manufacturer or your system builder to get your replacement RMA, whatever they're going to do. I know a couple of system builders have already come out and said, when the new products are out, we'll pay for shipping back and forth to swap out the part, or we can send you just an extra SATA controller card that you can put in your computer so you don't lose functionality on your system. Motherboard vendors will probably also do kind of like an RMA status from that. Although there is a push now to offer the upgraded chipsets that are going to be out kind of in the March-April timeframe anyway to those users that were early adopters.
That would actually be kind of thoughtful on Intel's part. In the meantime, it's like, in theory, it should take a fair amount of time or heat or pain to cause this chipset to fail. I guess extended heat testing is what brought out the failure for one of the manufacturers that found this and reported it to Intel. In the meantime, should you just unplug your eSATA drives from the 3 gigabit per second ports and plug them into a 6 gigabit per second port, or would you even bother?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the safest thing to do is if you're only using 2 SATA ports, go ahead and put them on the SATA 6 chipset. It's not going to affect performance one way or the other if you're not using SATA 6 capable hardware. The bug that they found doesn't seem to be causing any data loss, or they don't think it will cause any data loss. But when it comes to storage, it's one of those things where I would always rather be safe than sorry. So I would move things around.
So how long is it going to take to get the new parts in the channel where people can actually buy them?
So Intel basically said that the new chipsets are in production as of this week. We won't be able to see shipments until probably the end of February. So I'd expect March or April before we see, motherboards that are able to be manufactured on this new platform and actually start getting replacements out to customers. You
mentioned earlier when we were talking that Newegg, and I assume probably Dell and HP and everybody else, have pulled the SandyBridge parts pretty much off the market.
Yeah, and at least the online retailers that were selling directly are pulling them off, because it doesn't make sense to sell a processor that you have to sell a defective chipset along with. The system builders, I'm sure, will make their own decisions, but it really comes down to what they think the best cost advantage is going to be for them to ship out a system that they know they're going to have to support and replace a part on down the road. It probably wouldn't make a lot of sense. So I think we are going to see basically almost a halting of SandyBridge sales until they get these new parts out.
Yeah, I don't even think, I'm trying to imagine the conversation between Dell and Intel where Dell says, we'll just sell them and then y'all can pay for the shipping and the service call to transfer all their applications and data onto the new machine.
I mean, and the motherboard manufacturers didn't find out until the press did this morning. Apparently that's some kind of regulatory concern when it comes to recalls. So, I mean, motherboard guys, system guys, they're all kind of developing their responses and their plans of attack on this basically today.
And it pretty much came out, Intel figured this out probably over the weekend. It doesn't seem, no one's been mumbling about this. There's been no buzz online. This is a really out of left field. They found it and they're responding immediately.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think a lot of end users, I don't think anybody has really seen this problem. They said that it's a failure rate that could happen over, a 5% chance over a 3-year lifespan. But one of their OEMs actually found the problem. They didn't specify which one. And when Intel went in to investigate it last week, came to the conclusion, found the bug, found the result, all in, I think, less than 5 or 6 days.
Wow. So Intel is obviously being much more proactive compared to hardware issues they've had in the past. Good stuff, man. Thank you so much. What's coming up this week at PCPer.com?
We've got a lot of, actually, ironically, we were going to have a lot of SandyBridge motherboard reviews. We're going to talk with some of those manufacturers and see how they are going to even sell those anymore. Probably a lot of stories covering the fallout from this, and quite a few reviews coming up.
So basically, watch out if somebody offers you a SandyBridge motherboard really cheap next week.
Indeed.
Ryan, good stuff, man. Ladies and gentlemen, you can catch more of Ryan's work and the whole crew over at PCPer.com. I highly recommend it for hardware reviews. Coming up next, Veronica's hands-on with Dell's new Streak 7. Alex Lindsay teaches us about making your own 3D videos. And of course, we got viewer questions coming up right after this.
It's time to thank one of our sponsors, Dead Space 2. Isaac Clarke returns for another blood-curdling adventure in this sequel to Visceral Games' critically acclaimed blockbuster, Dead Space. Waking from a coma inside the massive space city known as the Sprawl, the lone survivor of a horrific alien infestation finds himself confronting a new nightmare. Equipped with an arsenal of new tools to dismember the necromorphs, Isaac must face a challenge head-on. So get ready to fire up Isaac's suit boosters to rocket around in zero gravity like never before. Explore the depths of the Sprawl and encounter new weightless combat and physics-based puzzles with full 360-degree movement. And for the first time, experience the horror of a necromorph outbreak with others. Fight in skirmishes around the Sprawl and strategically dismember your friends in online multiplayer gameplay. So be sure to look out for Dead Space 2 in stores now. Way back in July, we managed to get some one-on-one time with Dell Streak. Not content with leaving things as they were, Dell has introduced a new Streak, the Streak 7. It's a totally new device. It's larger, meant as a proper tablet device now, and not as a phone, even though it does have a SIM card inside. And frankly, I like it a lot better. Let's talk about the stats. Remember that Streak trying to put in my pocket?
Well, you were like, it's too big for a phone. It's too small compared to an iPad. I actually got to say the 7-inch screen size is compelling.
It is good. It is a nice compromise, I would definitely say. It's got, like we mentioned, a 7-inch capacitive touchscreen display. It's 800 by 480 WVGA, which is okay. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. It's got a forward-facing camera, 1.3 megapixel forward-facing cam for doing video conferencing and taking videos of yourself.
Without suffering.
Exactly. Thank you. And on the back, it's got a really nice 5 megapixel camera here with an LED flash built in and autofocus.
Cool.
So what I love is that in the YouTube app, you can hold it like this, and if you want to record a video, you can just like kind of move it around, and you can see the video as it's being recorded. It feels like a giant flip camera in that way, but it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's got a lot of different connectivity options. It's got 802.11b and G, no N though.
It's irritating, but it's pretty common with a lot of portable devices.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of irritating though.
I don't want to. I want to dump the 802.11g in my house, but you know what? My iPhone 4 doesn't have 802.11n.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Well, it's got the standard, Bluetooth. It's got GPS and 3G and 4G. Well, HSPA plus connectivity. We could call it 4G, but you know how these things go.
It's as 4G as everybody else's 4G.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. This model has 16 gigabytes of internal storage, but it also has an internal SD card slot.
Are you taking notes, Apple,
Seriously.
for the iPad 2?
So you can, add more storage if you need to, if you want to use it as like a really serious portable media device, which I think it's actually really good for. It reminds me of kind of like one of those old school like Cowan or Arcos players in a way. Like you forget, we kind of had things like this back in the day. We didn't call them tablets then; they were portable media players.
Pound, and they didn't do any internet stuff, and they didn't.
Some
record
did.
video.
The Arcos players did, if I remember correctly, like the Arcos 7. No?
You could call that internet access
Well,
if you like.
it wasn't quite as nice. All right, fine, whatever. But as we mentioned before in the past, this one's running one of those new NVIDIA Tegra 2 processors, which is really quite fast. I mean, this thing is blazing. And with the 4G connectivity, I mean, you're just loading pages left and right. Like, I thought I was on Wi-Fi when I was using it in the office, but it was on the 4G.
Dun, dun, dun!
And it was super fast. I liked that. And it's got a nice
does
little... Go ahead. It does flash, of course. It's got a nice little mashup of Android 2.2 with some of Dell's UI components as well, and it does flash.
How do you like the sort of Android-Dell interface mashup?
It's not too bad. I mean, I've been using the Galaxy Tab a little bit recently, and I think I like the interface on the Tab a little bit better than this device, but it's totally usable. I mean, it's very easy to figure out where things are. It's got this nice integrated social panel here where you can get your Twitter and your Facebook built right into one of your main panels, and it's got weather right on the display. So it's got all the basic stuff if you're an Android user that you're familiar with.
Right.
And that you're happy to see on this kind of device. And as far as usability goes, like it feels really good to hold. Like I like that part of it a lot, especially when you have it in portrait mode like this. It's a little bit easier for me to type on. When it's in landscape mode, it's kind of hard for me to thumb type.
Right.
I have that same problem with the iPad.
With the iPad, even
Yeah.
I end up holding it with one hand and
I know. It's annoying. I wish I could just kind of, if it was a little bit smaller, maybe I could get there, but...
Perhaps if they did a 5-inch version.
If only they would do a 5-inch version. I would be so much happier than with the 7-inch version.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of a product manager and some engineers
Like,
getting into their car and
"Why?
driving.
Oh, we did that. You didn't like it.
Belmont!
Belmont, why? But anyway, it's really nice. It's fast because it's on the 4G, and no one else is on 4G really here in San Francisco yet.
An advantage to 4G.
That's one of the main
T-Mobile.
pluses, yeah. And I love haptic feedback on my devices, so you get that nice little beep, 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 beep,
Oh, so it
beep.
actually does the whole...
Yeah.
That
You get a little
always
jolt when you
freaks
press the
me out
button.
a little bit.
Really?
Well, it's like squeezing an aardvark or something. It just reacts in an unpleasant way.
I wasn't expecting that. Okay. As for the bad, the screen just is not quite as sharp as I'd like it to be. But after spending all my time looking at the Retina display on my iPhone, everything, including my iPad, looks a little bit like
And your
soft
HD TV,
focus.
for that matter.
And my HD TV, that's very true. So I want to spend a little more time with this device before I can really definitively say what I do or do not like about it. But so far, my first impressions are really good.
So basically, the only flaw you're thinking of right now is you'd like a little more resolution.
I'd like a little more resolution, I think.
This
Yeah.
is high praise from Ms. Belmont.
I think so. It's going to be available on February 2nd. It's going to be $200 with a mail-in rebate and a 2-year contract with T-Mobile, and it's $450 off contract.
Very iPad-like.
Exactly. Nice device, though.
So thumbs up so far?
I would say thumbs up. Yeah, in the grand tablet scheme of things, I'm liking this guy.
Bum, bum, bum. You heard it here first. Veronica's picking the Dell Streak over the Galaxy Tab. at least for now. After the break, learn what it takes to shoot and edit video in 3D with video effects wizard Alex Lindsay. But first,
it's time to thank one of our sponsors, GoDaddy. GoDaddy.com makes it easy to customize your own virtual dedicated server. Choose one of 3 popular plans or select your own Linux or Windows server with all the plan options you need. Plus, with GoDaddy's free downloadable iPhone, Android, or BlackBerry app, you can place orders, manage your current domains, and more right from your phone. So sign up today and use code TECH8 to get 10% off any order. That's TEK8 to get 10% off your order. And remember to check out revision3.com/GoDaddy for a list of all the amazing GoDaddy deals from Revision 3. Looks like it's time for another website we just can't get enough of. A website that we just can't stay away from because it's too useful, too funny, or just too darn irresistible. This week's pick, Kickstarter. There are a ton of amazing products and projects out there looking to get their start in life, but without the funds to get off the ground. Luckily, there's Kickstarter, a portal where anyone looking to fund or find funding can go to kickstart projects of any kind. Primarily, the site is used for creative projects, like someone trying to produce their first album or a filmmaker looking to get a production team assembled. The best way to raise money is to give people some donation incentives, like a small token of appreciation for donating a little bit, or a larger gift like a DVD of the final product, for example, for much larger donations. If you want to chip in, you're able to search for local projects by genre, or check out the new and noteworthy projects. When you're ready to donate, either make an account or sign in using Facebook Connect. Select or write in the amount you want to donate, hit continue to the next step, and then pay using your Amazon account. It's that easy, and you can help make someone's creative dreams come true. For more info, head over to Kickstarter.com today, and thanks to Quentin and Jim on the Facebook page for the suggestion.
just 6 months ago, DIY 3D video, pretty much a pipe dream. As of CES, if you've got $400, you've got your very own 3D HD camera. But just how easy is it really to make your own 3D video? Our friend Alex Lindsay, video maven, founder of Pixel Core, Mac Break contributor, is here to share the answer. Dude, welcome to Techzilla.
Hey, it's good to be here.
You're healthy, you're robust, the child hasn't killed you?
No, both of them.
Oh my goodness. They're stacking up.
I know.
So we're literally not as common as Android tablets, but 3D cameras for home use were big at CES.
Yeah, that was a huge jump at CES.
Right.
Was that we were seeing a couple things in the professional division has been talking about 3D for the last couple of years.
Right.
But what we really saw between whether it's Fuji or Polaroid or Sony, all of these folks are looking at ways to provide consumer-grade 3D cameras.
So you held up. I think the Fujifilm was the one that's coming in at $400.
Yeah, this is probably the least expensive that really works well, and this is really what got me excited. I bought the W1 after last year, and this is the W3. This is the next version. 720p shoots, I believe it's 10 megapixel or 12 megapixel 3D images.
And literally twin CCDs, twin microphones, big honking light in between.
Yeah. And here's something that's really important about this, and this is different between this and a lot of other ones. Is if you look at this,
it's pretty typical for the, do we call that the separation,
well,
the parallax?
the separation between your eyes is typically called the interocular distance.
Okay.
When we're talking about cameras, we typically call it the interaxial distance. It's the axis of each lens.
So they were smart enough to do the interaxial difference roughly the same distances between as your eyeballs.
Exactly, which is a great place to start. And when you get a little closer, you're going to have less of a 3D effect. When you go further apart, it's a little bit more of a 3D effect, which is
perhaps
not
too much of a 3D effect.
Well, and sometimes you need that. So, for instance, if you look at this is another grade up. You know, as far as this is a Red Rock Micro makes this. It's still in beta. We're testing it for them. And but what you have here is the ability to control that interaxial distance.
So basically, this is two HD camcorders strapped to a basically a very expensive base.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have to synchronize? Because a lot of times when we think of 3D, we think of having to very precisely, GoPro for example, like half the cost of their 3D system for their little head mount cameras was the cable that connects two cameras to synchronize them. What's going on here?
This is a big deal. So one of the things that the key is you can actually get away with a lot depending on how fast things are moving. Because what happens is that not only do you have to have your cameras synced up frame for frame, but you technically want them synced up what we call intra-frame, which means that they're not even off by a partial part of a frame. So that things aren't, because if your hand starts going like this and it's moving and one's a little out of sync, it starts to have a shadowing effect, you know, kind of a double effect.
And then it gets really ugly because when you're using the shutter glasses, if things aren't synchronized on the shutter glasses with the video, the entire process falls apart.
Exactly. And the thing is you have to remember that we are, as we're looking at stuff, we're constantly changing convergence.
Right.
So I'm converging on you, and if I look down, I'm converging on this, and so our eyes are actually constantly changing what that is. And so not only do we have to worry about what we used to have to worry about is pooling focus. You know, now we have to pool convergence.
So $400 for the sort of soccer dad friendly 3D camera from Fuji. I'm guessing what, about $2,000-3,000 tied up in the Red Rock Micro.
I don't think they have a price yet. I'm going to guess it's $1,000 to $1,500 for the rig, but they don't have a price yet set.
Plus the cameras.
Plus whatever you got for the cameras.
Right.
And then of course you have the more professional version of the process.
You know, I'll let you pick that up because I'm guessing this is somewhere in the $15,000 range.
About 20 grand.
Oh wow.
And this is this is the Panasonic 3D-A1. So what you have here is you've got 2 lenses, 2 sensors, 2 SD cards in the back, 2 SDI outs of the back of the camera. So this is really a professional, and this is the first one that's really come out that is okay, you want to shoot some TV, you want to take it on the road and not have to fiddle with it. I just want to turn it on and have it actually shoot. This is the camera that everybody's going to right now. There's other people that are talking about them, but this is the one that's shipping. And it feels a lot like an HVX 200 or any of the other Panasonic cameras. So if you already know how to use those, it's a real comfortable camera. It has the same features, except for you have things like convergence control. You know, where you're changing where that convergence is. It is amazingly easy to use for production.
Obviously, this is going to be able to create a professional level Blu-ray where I've got my shutter glasses, my Happy Joy on that. Can a $400 camera deliver me the video I want to do something that's going to look proper on a 720p or 1080p?
You definitely can get started with that. You know, the thing is that if you're thinking about 3D, the first thing that I would do is I would run out and I'd buy one of these Fujifilm W3s because it starts to have you get your head around 3D. I mean, one of the issues is that you'll notice that everything looks better when I'm looking from the center, and you don't even need those glasses for that one. And that one just has its own little, you know, look at that. See, if you just get yourself lined up, you can see it in 3D. Now, if you push the button part way down, you'll notice that it'll converge. So it'll do the auto convergence for you.
Oh, that made a huge difference.
Yeah, so that everything kind of pops in, and you can see just in that little screen. And what's great is that you're able to you know, get your head around what good 3D looks like.
Well, part of what's crazy about this, right, is a lot of people don't realize one of the, you know, everybody's like, oh, Airbender, they just threw a filter on it, and, you know, they made an awful 3D movie. No, well, actually, you know what, I'll slag Airbender all I want to because it was a waste of a perfectly, you know.
Afternoon.
Yeah, no, I refused to watch it. I saw a clip and laughed because it was not what it could have been. But I bring that up because part of the reason Avatar worked is that not only did Cameron spend years and millions of dollars developing the technology, but he built every shot around taking advantage of 3D.
Right, and he didn't push it too far. So there's a whole big argument, for instance, when you're talking about this, is where do you converge? Do I converge? What Cameron did was that he converged on the main characters. So the main characters appear on the screen. Right. Some people like to try to converge behind them so they pop out of the screen, you know, but that can put a lot more pressure on our eyes. If you converge in front of them, they look like they're in kind of an aquarium.
Diorama.
Yeah, like this aquarium where they're kind of stuck in there. Hello,
Wasn't it Ibsen talking about plays and the fourth wall? And
right, exactly.
You know, well, it's funny, right? But, you know, Ebert, I think, did a pretty eloquent sort of discussion. He's like, part of the reason Avatar worked is it's not hurling spears at us through the screen and breaking, because you know, cinema is a very, it doesn't matter if you're going to see a flick or if you're a cinematic experience, but you're basically going there to be lost in this incredible, you know, it's a suspension of disbelief. I'm wrapped up in the story, and things flinging out of the screen tend to screw that up.
Yeah, and I'm still on the fence. I think 3D is here to stay. Right. I think it's going to continue to expand. I think that consumer 3D is going to make all the difference because people are going to start now wanting to have monitors and TVs that show off the stuff that they're shooting with these cameras. There's also a lot of industries that are using these cameras now, whether it's Discovery Channel or whether it is, you know, wedding videographers or whether it's, you know, other industries.
Because they can get both a 2D and a 3D version out of the same camera.
Exactly. You're just taking one channel out of this if you want the 2D version, if you want 3D, so you're kind of future-proofing it.
Right.
So if you're a professional shooter and you're capturing a lot of this information, you're kind of nuts not to be shooting a little bit of 3D, you know, out there, because even though it hasn't hit yet, with this camera, you can just take one eye, and then if it's available sometime in the future, you can, if it's needed, you can sell into that market.
I'm going to tease a little bit. You're going to be back next week to talk about how hard it is or how easy it is to take the stuff that comes out of these cameras and turn it into 3D. But one quick thing before we go, what's the number one thing for people like I'm used to? I've got my camcorder, I've got it on sticks, I've got it on a monopod, I hold it to do shaky vision at the baseball game, whatever my thing is. What's the number one thing people need to think about as they're adopting their shooting style from 2D to 3D?
Well, it's a great question, because one of the things that 3D starts to do is it starts to change all the rules. Because one of the things is that when we look at 2D, we have all these rules of third, and we have all these ways that we frame things.
Classical
lots of
composition.
edit and everything else. Right. But 3D is much more the way we live in the world. So you want long edits, like long distances between edit, because otherwise your eyes get really tired. Also, the best 3D tends to be in the center of frame. So you tend to want to center things a little bit more to really get that 3D effect, not necessarily put it off to one side or the other, because it doesn't look as good. And so it starts to change all those rules about how you're going to frame. So framing more towards the center, having taken longer clips, both things are, I think, a way to look at it. And I think the jury's still out exactly how to do that the best way, but that's what I'm noticing.
So how long before I stop running backwards from the camera because I'm looking at the 3D image coming at me out of the center of the camera? Or is that just a problem with me?
Well, it's one of those things that I think that we're going to see. We're still using these guys, either whether it's active matrix or red blue or all these other things right now. I think we're probably 3 to 5 years away before we're just looking at monitors and things are just popping out.
PixelCore, what's the website?
The best thing for our shows is pixelcore.tv or pixelcore.com for our services.
It is an amazing, amazing group doing so. Basically, if you want to learn about video, check out the websites we just talked about. Alex Lindsay, thank you so much, sir. We will see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still to come, a big old pile of viewer questions. But first, let's thank one of our sponsors, Audible. Audible.com is the leading provider of downloadable digital audiobooks and spoken word entertainment. Thousands of hours of beautiful listening experience. Probably a lot more than that, because Audible's got over 75,000 titles to choose from. You can download them to your iPod, your MP3 player, play them back anywhere, anytime. Choose from books in every genre: science fiction, thrillers, drama, comedy, business, history, and quite a bit more. Want to get an audiobook for free? Go to audiblepodcast.com/techzilla and you'll get a free audiobook download of your choice when you sign up. Again, go to audiblepodcast.com/techzilla for your free audiobook. Donald writes in, I'm trying to put together a log of Twitter content that I generated without retweeting. However, when I search my account with Twitter, I only get results of up to about a month old. What gives? How long do my Twitter posts last? If they last more than a year, can I create a custom search to show me all of my posts minus the retweets for a full year? I think someone is using my tweets and not giving me credit. Thanks for all the help. The show is awesome. Donald.
Yeah, unfortunately, Twitter does not hold on to those tweets for very long.
Oh, they hold on to them.
They hold on to them, but not in a way that's searchable. They stop letting searches come after, like you said, probably around a month. Your tweets will still be there forever and ever and ever if you want to scroll all the way back through your timeline, but they won't be searchable through Twitter itself using like search.twitter.com, for example. Read Write Web has a fantastic article about different ways you can archive your tweets going forward, and a few services that let you download a CSV file of older tweets. I've tried a few of them, and they only went a few months back, and it was kind of confusing. I don't have Excel right now either, so I had to upload it using Google Docs, and I think that probably didn't help with some of the formatting issues there. I would suggest going forward that using a Twitter search RSS feed that includes your username, and then using the minus sign and whatever word you want to filter out to clear up that feed, like the minus retweet, for example. When I try it, I can get tweets going back pretty darn far, but it's a really weird timeline.
Yes.
It's like November 23rd, 2010 to August 2009, and then I can continue to load back tweets of replies, but it goes like, I would have sat there all day just hitting refresh. I'm not a good case scenario. It's loading almost everything though, so that's good. It's just really fickle. I would suggest trying one of those methods at Read Write Web. That is the hardest website to say.
Read Write Web?
Read Write Web.
Because I said Read Write Web.
Read Write Web.
That website you can see right here.
Yes. Yeah, the whole retweet thing, though, is difficult. The replies thing for RSS readers sometimes, though, because they have to use the verified API connection, and sometimes only desktop RSS readers will get that to work properly. But I had some luck using Google Reader, so you may have luck as well. It's just going to look kind of weird.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What's really irksome about this is that Twitter is essentially donating their entire archive of what they consider public tweets. Basically, Twitter has defined whatever a public tweet is, and they're giving all of them to the Library of Congress. And they made that promise back in April 2010. So Twitter has all of this information. They just don't make it searchable through your interface or through your favorite client.
I think it's a data rate thing. I read something about it being a data rate issue.
It could be a data rate issue. It could be an archival issue. It could be. I can think of lots of reasons why they don't do it, but it's really funny, right? Because the Library of Congress blog notes that the Library of Congress includes such items as the very first telegram ever sent by telegraph inventor Samuel F.B. Morse, oral histories from veterans and ordinary citizens, and many other first-hand accounts of history. These collections and others have left behind glimpses of the lives of ordinary people, thereby enriching knowledge of the context of public events recorded in government documents and newspapers. Individually, tweets might seem insignificant, but viewed in the aggregate, they can be a resource for future generations to understand life in the 21st century.
Yeah, Google had something like that too, where you could search for events and then it would also bring up the public tweets about that situation based on the timeline that you decided. I think that was like a beta thing, and it went away in search.
Right.
I'm not seeing it in search anymore, where you can actually put in the timeline of when you want to see the tweets from, so you can be like, I want to hear everything about, you know, what's
Lady
going on
Gaga
in Egypt right now, or I want to know everything what happened at
Right.
the Oscars last year, all the tweets from that time period, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Twitter's archive joins the Library of Congress's web capture project. The New York Times says this was, I think, sometime last year that the web capture project had already stored 167 terabytes of digital material, quote, far more than the equivalent of the text of the 21 million books in the library's collection.
Wow.
It's a really interesting gift from Twitter because it's basically everything for academic researchers in the future. They still haven't made it really clear how normal human beings like us or the person asking the question will have access to it. The gift agreement doesn't prevent the Library of Congress from putting anything older than 6 months up on the web, as long as it's not easily subject to bulk download.
Yeah.
So watch what you tweet, by the way. So your kids are going to have a field day. Dude, Dad's in the Library of Congress talking about 420.
Oh man! And another way you can look if you think someone is I don't know what you're worried about, if you think someone is stealing your tweets or retweeting your tweets.
Maybe he feels like Twitter is stealing his tweets.
Maybe.
Maybe
You can
he's
just
being
search for your tweets
are
in
gone.
quotes, and you'll see like who is writing it exactly in search.twitter.com. So.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on it. Anyway, next question. Jeff writes in, hey, guys, I received my package from eBay today, which is an eSATA to USB converter, after being freaked out with Veronica repeatedly saying that they are incompatible. I don't know whether my eSATA port isn't working due to its age, or if I spent $1 on crap. The insides of the converter do look promising. Jeff. I don't know. This is starting to make my brain hurt. Can you help me here? So he has a converter going from
it's a little black piece of
eSATA
black.
P. No, it's not eSATA P. It's just eSATA to USB 2.0.
Yeah. It's got a USB. He basically has a USB jack with an eSATA port out the back of it. If it works, and I've seen bogus cables sold on eBay where some weasel, say, bought 1,000 HDMI cables and had 1,000 VGA jacks soldered onto the end of them, and they don't do anything. Or maybe it was a weird cable for a particularly unusual piece of equipment that was sold to whatever. Basically, there's lots of things sold on eBay that don't work. If your little plug works, that jack takes an eSATA drive and makes it available to your computer over a USB port. That's very common. eSATA plugging into USB is every pretty much external hard drive out there. I rather doubt it's supposed to work the other way, because if it did, it would have a USB hub or some kind of USB plug-in on the opposite side of that eSATA port. eSATA USB common, USB to eSATA not so common. Like USB plug. Like you're not going to plug your USB printer over your eSATA port.
Yes.
However, going from an eSATA drive to a
eSATA
USB
drive
port,
to USB, that's fine.
that's fine.
Okay.
It'll be better if it's USB 3.0, especially if it's an SSD.
It's like every single time I think I have it down, I'm like, wait, what? Wait, if it's going this way, if it's doing that, it's a little bit confusing.
It's irksome. That'll be the word for the D block.
It's irksome. Next up, Rodney emails, hey guys, I'm a teacher and I've been working on podcasting in and for my classroom. I was wondering if you could suggest a nice and cheap, I'm a teacher after all, hosting site for my podcasts. I kind of doubt that I would get a whole bunch of traffic, but I need the site to be accessible both inside and outside of the district firewall, and possibly host both audio and video podcasts. Any help is greatly appreciated. Love your show. So we've given this answer a few times. times in the past, and a lot of you have written in actually recently asking where they should host their podcast content. If you want absolutely free hosting with the understanding that your content is archived for the rest of eternity and searchable that way as well, check out archive.org. Yes, we've been talking about archives, and this is one of the potential downsides to archive situations. And you can also upload video. I've been using it for Sword and Laser for the past 3 years, and we've never had any major issues. And plus, when the aliens come after the end of human civilization, they'll see your videos as an example of our culture. And won't that be great?
No, what'll be great is when Facebook dumps everything into the Library of Congress, just like Twitter. That'll be a great example of our culture for the alien invaders to skim through.
How about please don't do that?
You want a what to pink? What was a pink?
Ooh,
Who is this? Excuse me?
Nope, don't want it. Don't want
and
that.
on that bright
no.
and cheerful note.
Yes, we live on your questions. So email us, techzilla@revision3.com. Tech help, product reviews, how-tos. You ask us, we'll do it, but we need those emails. Or video questions. We love those too. Please send them on in to techzilla@revision3.com.
And as always, you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/techzilla, or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/techhd.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Until next time, you've been watching a very clumsy Techzilla.
Bye.